Okay, let's get real for a second. Humans are pretty proud of themselves. And honestly, we should be. We figured out how to microwave a burrito in 2 minutes. We eradicated diseases. We built the internet so you could watch videos of cats falling off furniture. We have triumphed over almost every obstacle nature put in our way. But then, you look up. You look at the night sky. And if you stare long enough, that pride starts to shrink. You realize that in the grand scheme of things, we aren't the main characters. We aren't even the extras. We are barely background props in a movie that has been running for billions of years. The universe is massive. It is chaotic. And quite frankly, it is terrifyingly weird. So, if you are ready to have your mind blown and your ego checked, buckle up. We are going to go through the facts that prove space is not just the final frontier. It's the weirdest place in existence. The sound of silence. Let's start with the atmosphere. Or rather, the lack of one. You know every sci-fi movie you have ever seen. The ones where the TIE fighters scream past the camera or the Death Star explodes with a massive, theater-shaking kaboom. Yeah, that is all a lie. It is Hollywood gaslighting you. Space is completely, eerily silent. Sound is essentially just vibration. It is a pressure wave. When I speak, I am vibrating the air molecules in front of my face. They bump into their neighbors, and that chain reaction eventually hits your eardrums. But space is a vacuum. There are massive gaps between molecules. If a ship explodes in deep space, those expanding gases disperse so quickly into the void that there is no medium to carry the sound wave to your ear. You could be standing next to a supernova, the most violent explosion known to physics, and if you survived the radiation, you wouldn't hear a thing. It would be a silent movie of destruction. However, just because we can hear it with our ears doesn't mean space is quiet in the electromagnetic spectrum. Astronauts and satellites pick up radio waves all the time. We can convert those plasma waves into sound. And let me tell you, the universe sounds like a haunted house. It whistles, chirps, and hisses, but without a radio. It is the ultimate quiet place. The star. You could wear a t-shirt on. When you think of a star, you think of fire. You think of our sun, burning at a spicy 5,778 degrees Celsius on its surface. It's an incinerator, but the universe loves to break its own rules. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the chillest star in the hood. WISE 1828 plus 2,650. This thing is a brown dwarf, which is what astronomers call a failed star. It tried to get big enough to start nuclear fusion, but it just didn't have the mass. It's located about 47 light-years away from us, and the temperature it is roughly 26.7 degrees Celsius. That is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That is literally room temperature. That is a pleasant spring afternoon. If you could stand on the surface of this star without getting crushed by gravity or poisoned by the atmosphere, you wouldn't need a spacesuit for the heat. You could wear shorts. You could have a picnic on a star. When interstellar travel finally becomes a thing, skip the beach. We are going to the room temp star. The smell of the cosmos. Okay, so we know space is silent. But have you ever wondered what it smells like? If you took off your helmet in space, you'd die. So don't do that. But when astronauts come back inside the International Space Station and take off their suits, they notice a very distinct odor clinging to their gear. They report that space smells like seared steak, hot metal, and welding fumes. It sounds insane, right? Why does the vacuum of space smell like a backyard barbecue? It comes down to chemistry. It's mostly due to dying stars. As stars burn out, they release smelly compounds called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These molecules float around the universe forever. And guess what? These are the exact same molecules produced when you char the dream of human flight on Titan. I want you to picture Saturn. Beautiful rings, gas giant, very hostile. But its moon, Titan. Titan is where the fun begins. Titan is the only moon in our solar system with a thick atmosphere. In fact, the atmosphere is thicker than Earth's. But because Titan is smaller than Earth, the gravity is much, much lower. Here is the math. Thick air plus low gravity equals a physics playground. If you were on Titan, you wouldn't need a plane. You wouldn't need a jetpack. Theoretically, if you strapped a pair of large wings to your arms like Da Vinci-style wings and flapped them hard enough, you could fly. You, a human being, could flutter around like a bird. Now, mind you, it is minus 179 degrees Celsius there, and it rains liquid methane, so you would need a very warm coat. But the fact remains, on Titan, you are basically Superman. Counting the uncountable, we humans are bad with big numbers. We hear million and billion, and they sound kind of similar. But the scale of the universe is designed to break your brain. If you stood on a beach and tried to count every single grain of sand, every tiny speck on every beach on Earth, that number would be staggering. It would take you lifetimes. But here is the thing. There are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on all the beaches on Earth. Astronomers from the Australian National University did a study and estimated the number to be 70 sextillion. Do you know what that looks like? That is a 7 followed by 22 zeros. The solar system is a dictatorship. We talk about the solar system like it's a democrative planet. We learn about Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn like they are the big players. They aren't. The solar system is 99.86% the sun. That's right. If you took all the mass in the solar system, every planet, every moon, every asteroid, every comet, and piled them up on one side of a scale, and put the sun on the other side, the sun makes up roughly 99% of the total mass. We are, statistically speaking, a rounding error. The solar system is basically just the sun and some leftover debris that didn't make the cut. We are living on the debris, the immortality of footprints. Let's go back to our own moon for a second. In 1969, Neil Armstrong put his boot down in the lunar dust. It was a huge moment for history. But here's the cool part. That footprint is likely still there, exactly as he left it. But on Earth, if you step in mud, the wind blows, the rain falls, the ground shifts, and the footprint is gone in a day. But the moon is geologically dead and has no atmosphere. There is no wind to blow the dust away. There is no rain to wash it out, unless a meteor happens to hit that exact spot. The footprints of the Apollo astronauts will remain there for up to 100 million years. Long after humanity's gone, long after our cities have turned to dust, those boot prints will sit there in the silence, waiting for aliens to come find them, and wonder what size shoe we wore. The sun is not yellow. Go ask a child to draw the sun. They will grab the yellow crayon, maybe orange if they are feeling artistic. But if you went to space and looked at the sun with a really good filter so you don't go blind, you would see that the sun is actually white. So why does it look yellow to us. It's because of our atmosphere. It acts like a prism. When sunlight hits our atmosphere, the shorter wavelengths of light, like blue and violet, get scattered. That's why the sky is blue. The longer wavelengths, yellow, orange, red, to make it through to our eyes more easily. Basically, the atmosphere is an Instagram filter that Earth puts on the sun to make it look warmer. But in reality, it's a stark, blinding white ball of pure energy. The space, ocean, water is life, right? We are constantly looking for water on Mars or Europa. But it turns out there is a reservoir of water in space that makes our oceans look like a puddle. Astronomers found a massive cloud of water vapor floating around a black hole, technically a quasar, about 12 billion light-years away. How much water? It holds 140 trillion times the amount of water in all of Earth's oceans combined. It is the largest collection of water ever discovered. It's just floating there. If we ever figure out how to transport that, the bottled water industry is going to crash hard. Scale is terrifying. Let's try to visualize the solar system again, because our brains are bad at it. If the sun were the size of a standard football, do you know how big Earth would be? A pea. A tiny, little green pea floating around a football. Jupiter, the giant of our planets. It would be a golf ball. It really puts your problems into perspective. You are stressed about that email you sent. You are a microscopic bacteria living on a pea orbiting a football. Relax. The super cockroaches. You know the urban legend that cockroaches can survive a nuclear apocalypse. Well, space agencies accidentally proved it. A Russian experiment sent 33 cockroaches into space to see how they would handle the microgravity and radiation. Not only did they survive, but they also conceived offspring while in orbit. When those space babies were born back on Earth, they were different. They were tougher, they were stronger, they were faster. Their limbs grew faster than normal Earth roaches. So, space travel doesn't kill cockroaches. It turns them into Captain America. If we ever fight an alien war, we shouldn't send humans. We should just launch a rocket full of roaches and let them handle it. The moon is breaking up with us. The moon feels like our constant companion. It's always there, watching over us. But the relationship is drifting apart, literally, every single year. The moon moves about 1.5 inches away from Earth. It's due to the tidal energy transfer between the Earth and the moon. It acts like a slow brake, pushing the moon into a higher orbit. 1.5 inches doesn't sound like much, but over millions of years, it adds up. Eventually, the moon will be so far away that total solar eclipses will be impossible, because the moon will look too small to cover the sun. Enjoy the eclipses while you can, folks. We are losing her. Gravitational lensing. The funhouse mirror gravity is not just a force that pulls you down. It's a force that bends reality. Albert Einstein predicted this, and he was right. If you have a massive object, like a cluster of galaxies, the gravity is so strong that it actually bends the fabric of space-time itself. This means that light traveling past that cluster gets bent, like light going through a glass lens. This creates gravitational lensing. When we look through a telescope, We might see a star or a galaxy in one spot, but it's actually in a totally different location. The gravity bent the light around the corner. Sometimes we see the same galaxy 4 times in the sky, mirrored around a center point. The universe is basically a giant carnival funhouse mirror. Ceres, the planet killer. Between Mars and Jupiter lies the asteroid belt. It's like a cosmic highway full of rocks. The boss of this highway is Ceres. It was considered an asteroid, but it's so big they upgraded it to a dwarf planet. Ceres is almost 600 miles in diameter. To put that in perspective, that is roughly the size of Texas, but in a sphere. If Ceres were to ever get knocked out of its orbit and collide with Earth, it wouldn't be like the movie Armageddon. We wouldn't send Bruce Willis to drill a hole in it. It would just be game over. Humanity, the dinosaurs, the bacteria, everything gone. Reset button pressed. Luckily, it stays in its lane. For now. Jupiter is a speed demon. Jupiter is huge. It is massive. You would think something that big would move the instant growth spurt. Do you wish you were a little bit taller? I've got a solution for you, but it's expensive. Go to space. When astronauts spend time in zero gravity, they actually grow. Without the constant pressure of gravity compressing their spines, the fluid-filled discs between their vertebrae expand. Astronauts can gain up to 2 inches in height after a trip to space. It sounds great, right? The downside is that when they come back to Earth, gravity immediately starts squishing them back down. This process can be incredibly painful. So, you can be tall, but you're going to have a killer backache to go with it. The longest day on Venus. Venus is Earth's evil twin. It's hot, it's acidic, and its time management is terrible. Venus rotates incredibly slowly. In fact, it rotates so slowly that a day on Venus, one rotation on its axis lasts longer than a year. On Venus, one orbit around the Sun, it takes 243 Earth days for Venus to spin once. But it only takes 225 Earth days for it to go around the Sun. Imagine that. You could celebrate 2 birthdays in the same day. Also, Venus spins backward compared to Earth. So the Sun rises in the west and sets in the east. If you ever need to confuse a calendar maker, send them to Venus Cold Welding. The glitch in real life. This next fact sounds like a video game glitch. On Earth, if you take 2 pieces of metal and touch them together, nothing happens. That is because there is oxygen in our air. The oxygen forms a tiny, invisible layer of rust or oxide on the surface of the metal, which acts like a barrier. In space, there is no oxygen. If you take 2 pieces of clean, polished metal in the vacuum of space and touch them together, the atoms don't know they are separate pieces. They think they are part of the same chunk of metal. They will instantly fuse together, bonded permanently. It is called cold welding. It is a nightmare for engineers designing spacecraft. They have to coat everything in special materials so the hatch doesn't accidentally weld itself shut, trapping the astronauts inside forever. The galaxy's open bar, we talked about the smell of space. But what about the taste? Near the center of the Milky Way, there is a giant molecular cloud called Sagittarius B2. It is huge. And when scientists analyzed the light spectrum coming from this cloud to figure out what it's made of, they found something hilarious. It contains massive amounts of a chemical called ethyl formate. 2 fun facts about ethyl formate. It is the chemical responsible for the flavor of raspberries, and it smells like rum. So, floating in the center of our galaxy is a dust cloud that smells like a pirate S-bar and tastes like a fruit smoothie. It contains billions of liters of this stuff. God's own bar, indeed. Pareidolia. Space is full of cartoons. Humans love seeing faces in things. We see faces in toast, in clouds, and apparently in deep space. There is a galaxy called 3C303. It is 2 billion light-years away. It has a massive jet of plasma shooting out of it. If you look at the images, it looks exactly like a giant radioactive bee. Then there is Mercury. There is a formation of craters on the surface of Mercury that looks exactly like the Mickey Mouse logo. Disney's lawyers are probably trying to figure out how to sue the planet as we speak. And finally, the Trifid Nebula. It is 5,200 light-years away. It's a nursery for stars. But if you look at the dust lanes, it looks like a majestic, glowing unicorn. The universe isn't just chaos. It's an art gallery. The Diamond Planet, if you like shiny things. You are going to love 55 Conchrae. This is an exoplanet located in the Cancer constellation. It is about twice the size of Earth and 8 times as heavy. It orbits extremely close to its star, so it is scorching hot. Because of the pressure and the carbon-rich composition of the planet, scientists believe that a huge portion of this planet is made of pure diamond. We are talking about a planet where the dirt is diamond. If you could... The structure that shouldn't exist, the universe, is old. About 13.8 billion years old. And according to our understanding of physics, that is only enough time for structures of a certain size to form. But then we found the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. This is a superstructure of galaxies. It is a cluster so big that it is 10 billion light-years wide. Wait, do the math. If the universe is 13.8 billion years old, how did a structure 10 billion light-years wide have time to form? It defies our current understanding of cosmology. It's too big. It shouldn't be there. It's like finding a skyscraper that was built 5 minutes after the invention of the brick. It proves that we still have no idea how the universe actually works. Saturn's disappearing act. Saturn is famous for its rings. It is the jewelry of the solar system, but every 15 years, the rings disappear. They don't actually vanish, but they become invisible to us. As Saturn orbits the Sun, the angle at which we see the rings changes. Once every 15 years, the rings line up perfectly, edging with Earth. Because the rings are incredibly thin, some places less than a kilometer thick. When we look at them from the side, they are too thin to see. The planet just looks like a naked beige ball. It's a very weird sight, like seeing a celebrity without their signature haircut. The moon used to be Earth. We end with a family reunion. Where did the moon come from? Did it just float by and get caught in gravity? The leading theory, called the giant impact hypothesis, says no. Billions of years ago, Earth was a lonely planet. Then, a protoplanet the size of Mars, named the A, slammed into Earth. It was a cataclysmic collision. It turned Earth into a molten ball of lava and blasted a massive chunk of our crust into orbit. Over time, that debris clumped together and formed the moon. So, when you look at the moon, you aren't looking at a stranger. You are looking at a piece of Earth that got knocked into the sky. It is our baby, the inevitable collision. And finally, if you think things are crazy now, just wait. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is currently moving at a velocity of 552 kilometers per second. We are speeding through the universe, and we are on a crash course. We are heading straight for the Andromeda galaxy. Andromeda is bigger than us, and it is hungry. In about 4.5 to 5 billion years, the two galaxies will collide. Now, collide is a strong word. Because space is so empty, stars likely won't hit each other. But the gravity will throw everything into chaos. The night sky will change completely. The two galaxies will merge into one giant super-galaxy, which scientists have already nicknamed Milky. Unfortunately, our sun will likely have expanded and roasted the Earth by then, so we won't be around to see the fireworks. But it's nice to know our galaxy has a date in the future. Look, space is terrifying. There are diamond planets, disappearing rings, and giant walls of galaxies that defy physics. It makes you realize that your problems are very, very small. But do you know what isn't small? The algorithm. It is watching. It is hungry. And unlike a black hole, you can actually appease it. If you want to survive the eventual collision with Andromeda, or if you just want to make sure you don't miss our next video where we figure out how to mine that diamond planet, smash that subscribe button. Like the video so the YouTube gravity pulls it to other people. And comment below. Would you rather visit the diamond planet or the room temp star? Stay curious, stay small, and I'll see you in the next one.